on Get Up. We'll get back on the field in a moment, but first, add another chapter to the soap opera of Antonio Brown's tenure in Oakland. The team now reportedly planning to suspend Brown after he got into a heated exchange with general manager Mike Mayock on Wednesday. And we are delighted now to be able to go live to O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, where Antonio Brown's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, is good enough to spend a minute with us here. Drew, thank you for doing this. And very simply, what happened?
Well, Mike, I can tell you that Antonio right now is working very hard to get everything resolved with the team without a suspension, hopefully being able to come back, practice, and play as soon as possible. I've been working diligently with the team over the last 24 hours to get this situation resolved. Our hope is that we can get him back on the team, back on the field, and get him back on track very soon. But again, that's a moving process right now, and I'll continue to communicate with the Raiders to get things squared away. As far as what happened, that's really internal, and I'm going to let the Raiders and Antonio divulge that at the appropriate time. My job is to get things worked out, to get Antonio to play out the contract that we negotiated and get him back in a good place with the team. That's what I get paid to do, and that's what I'm working on as we speak.
Understood. The last time you and I talked, Drew, the issue was about a helmet. What is the issue now?
Well, there isn't an issue as far as I'm concerned outside of what happened a couple days ago in practice. Antonio is looking forward to putting all of this stuff behind him. He wants to play football. He wants to play football for the Raiders. He wants to have a good relationship with the team. That's why he signed with them. That's why he was traded there. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation about the foot injury, the helmet. His feet are healthy. He's got a new helmet. Right now, we want him to have a good relationship with John Gruden, Mike Mayock, his teammates, play football, be the best football player that he can possibly be.
So how would you characterize his relationships with Gruden and Mayock right now?
Right now, I think his relationship with Coach Gruden is good, very good. I'm not going to get into his relationship with Mike Mayock, but I will say that we're hopeful that that will be a good one as well. It has been in the past. It can be in the future. Listen, the NFL is a workplace, and in workplace environments, not everything is perfect. And Antonio is a new player on this football team, and we're trying to make it a very good relationship across the board. But what is very common in a new relationship is you try to get things in a good place, and it takes time. Antonio has played his entire career with the Steelers. Everything with the Raiders is new. The coaches, the players, the environment. It's a big adjustment for him, and we're trying to get that to be in a very good place. Sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes that's a process, and we're in the process of making that hopefully a good one that lasts for a long time. Right now, that's something that is still in the works.
So, Drew, when we first sort of saw a sign of trouble here was when Antonio Brown posted that letter about the fines on Instagram. Why did he do that?
You know what? I really haven't discussed that with Antonio, but Antonio is obviously an avid user of social media. He can be very active on that, and he made the decision to share that information. Quite frankly, I don't think that is going to be the end of the world for us. I'm confident we can work past that. I'm confident we can work past any issue that is developed with the team. I'm confident we can get him back on track with the organization, and he can play great football, hopefully as soon as Monday night. But that obviously is up in the air right now.
Now, Drew, you know him. Obviously, you talk to him. How would you describe Antonio Brown's state of mind right now?
Right now, his state of mind is to get back to work. His state of mind is to get back to playing football, with the team. His state of mind is to get on track. His state of mind is positive. His state of mind is to put all these off the field distractions behind him and focus on football, have a great season, do what the Raiders brought him in to do, which is be one of the best players in the National Football League and help them win a lot of football games. And I'm confident he can do this.
And so finally, Drew, what happens now? Could sort of walk us through the process of what you do, what he does, what the team does. Where does it now go from here?
Myself, Antonio, we're both in communication with the Raiders organization, with Coach Gruden, with Mike Mayock, with the owner, Mark Davis, and we are in the process of rectifying, hopefully, his future with the team. If it's up to me, if it's up to Antonio, he'll be back immediately and we can put all this stuff behind him. Some communications will continue today, tomorrow. Hopefully we can get things resolved where he can play against the Denver Broncos and get right back on track, scoring touchdowns, helping this team win a lot of football games this year.
All right, Drew, I very much appreciate you doing this in the middle of a busy travel day. Thank you. Travel safely, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon. So thank you very much. Let me take this out to the table really quickly. We don't have a lot of time here, but just reaction. Go ahead.
Look, I'm telling you, I don't think a suspension necessarily is on the table here. Or rather, it could be on the table. I just don't necessarily think that that's ultimately what's going to happen. Because, look, what he mentioned was this, and you heard him say, when you asked him, what's your relationship, what's Antonio's relationship with John Gruden? He said, it's good. Then he said, it's very good. And then he said, what's it like with Mike Mayock? Well, okay. Well, what he's saying is, look, he understands who's driving the bus here. He understands that John is heavily invested in this guy. I like to use the word sponsorship. Antonio has a lot of sponsorship out there via the head coach. The head coach explicitly wanted this guy on his football team. You think he's just going to want to cut ties with him right now before the season even starts? Of course he's not going to want to. And Drew keeps laying the foundation to say, hopefully he's on the field on Monday night. Don't be surprised if he is.
I go back to something that I heard Bill Parcells say a long time ago. Confrontation breeds change. And the behavior they were seeing in camp, I don't think they were enjoying anymore. And maybe Gruden relayed that to Mike Mayock. You're going to have to be the bad cop in this. You're going to have to go address these things because we're going to need to get him on the same page. And I know Drew talked about he's an avid user of social media, but there's some things that stay in-house. And I go back to Pittsburgh last year when he's filming Mike Tomlin giving his post-game speech. I just don't think that those things are for public consumption. And Gruden is an old school guy, no matter how much he loves him. At some point, some of those things are going to need to change.
I'd like to remind everyone that if he is on the active roster for week one, then his salary for this season is guaranteed. So this is a major time here. It's $14.5 million of the money that they owe him becomes guaranteed if he's on the roster week one. John, what's your takeaway?
We need to talk about how Mike Mayock has handled this situation. As a GM, he knew exactly what he was getting. We saw the antics before he left Pittsburgh, right? Antonio Brown leaving Pittsburgh. So now, why would you go and confront a player that you know is a hothead, that you know is volatile, and especially do it in front of everyone? What was that going to resolve? Nothing. As a GM, you bring him into your office, you handle it like a man, and then from there you figure out what you need to do. But this whole thing has been handled very, very poorly by Mike Mayock.
I tell you, I've been covering the sport a really long time. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything exactly like this that doesn't end really badly. So we'll see where it winds up going. All right, we'll take a quick break. We have so much still to come here on Get Up. What happened to the offense in Chicago last night? We'll tell you why the Packers may not need to rely that much on Aaron Rodgers and more. It's Get Up on ESPN.